This is an RFE issued by the USCIS. They issue an RFE, which is called Request for Evidence, whenever they feel that they don't have enough documentation or information to process your case. I consider an RFE to be like the marking scheme or marking key for an examination. So assume that your application is an examination. So in the RFE, they give you bullet points suggesting the kinds of evidence that they want that you can use to fulfill each criteria. So for national interest waiver, there are three prongs. This is the first prong. They call it substantial merit and national importance prong. The reason why this person got an RFE is that they said the evidence does not establish that all three of the above listed elements have been met. These are the three above listed elements. So in this video, I'm interested in this first prong. And these are the bullet points that I spoke about. So this is about your potential, about the endeavor's potential prospective impact. So keep in mind that all of this is potential. You're talking about the future. I feel that my endeavor will do this in the future, or my research will do that in the future. So you do not necessarily have to have results or the fruits of your endeavor right now. So here you can see they suggest that evidence showing that the proposed endeavor has national or even global implications. So in order to meet the first prong, which is substantial merit and national importance, you must show evidence that your endeavor has this. So I highlighted these two because these are the two that I used in my own petition letter. Keep in mind, this RFE does not belong to me. I didn't get an RFE. I got an approval without an RFE. But I used this RFE. I wrote my petition as though I was responding to an RFE. So I will take a bullet point and I'll make it into a subheading in my petition letter and I'll flesh it out. So let's go to my petition. So this is my prong one. I said my specific endeavor, the research projects that I'm working on and propose to continue with your permission are to conduct research that allows me to design and build this. Same for this. And then I said I would use these devices to help develop and hyperpolarize gases, which serve as A, contrast agents for MRI, and B, polarized targets for fundamental physics applications. Now this is my prong one. So if you can remember from the RFE, it says you should show evidence that your endeavor impacts a matter that a government entity has described as having national importance or is the subject of national initiatives. So here, I show that my endeavor impacts a matter that a government agency describes as important. I said, recognizing the national importance of medical imaging research, its potential to provide high skilled manufacturing jobs in the US, and the need to coordinate and accelerate such research. The US Congress in 2015 directed the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy through the NSTC to establish a multi agency committee on medical imaging. And I said, see Exhibit 18. So, and I took a quote from the bill and I put it here, simply showing that they should not take my word for it. It's the US Congress that said so. So it's the same thing here. I said, following the directive from Congress, these guys sprung into action and they formed the working group, and this is the purpose and scope below. So I said this is Exhibit 19. So basically, the working group will enhance federal efforts related to advancing research and improving our fundamental understanding of medical imaging, accelerating technology advancement to combat disease. I continued, I said the working group submitted a report in 2017 on the roadmap for medical imaging research and development. And below are excerpts from the document. So I showed here that the federal government invests in medical imaging because medical imaging research and plays an important role in developing and deploying imaging technology that will help lengthen and improve the quality of American lives. So it's just to show that it's important. So that's what I did. I showed that the endeavor impacts a matter that a government agency describes as important. So there are other government agencies. This information can be found online on the internet. If whatever your proposed endeavor is, what you want to ask yourself is, what has the White House said about it? What has the US Congress said about it? What has the Senate said about it? What has the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, said about it? What has the DOJ, Department of Justice, said about it? What has the NIH, National Institute of Health, said about it? What has the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau said about it? What has the Department of Treasury said about it? So you want to look at government agencies, you want to look at news about whatever it is you're working on. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you're working on specifically. It can be the application of what you're working on. So here, I gave them a brief introduction into our research. But before that, I kind of used the hell paradise thing to introduce it. So I said, why is there so much concern about research into medical imaging? I said, potentially deadly lung diseases like this guy. I showed that this guy is really nasty. It's a disease that there are diseases that cause airflow blockage and breathing related problems. And it affects more than 200 million people and has killed about 3 million people worldwide in 2019 alone. So I'm trying to show how serious of an issue this is. So I think about it like the hell paradise kind of thing. So I said, this guy, COPD, it's a group of diseases. It's the world's third leading cause of death, followed closely by respiratory infections, all of which directly affect the lungs. These problems combined account for nearly 8 million annual deaths worldwide, according to the WHO. So basically, it's not me saying it; it's the WHO saying it. So I'm trying to show that there are global implications when you're talking about 200 million people being affected, about 3 million people being killed, and about 8 million people annually dying. So it's a big deal. And I copied this from the WHO report from their website. Just shows the number of deaths in millions and the causes of death globally. So here I'm trying to introduce the paradise. So I'm saying that these lung diseases, one of the reasons why they are difficult to diagnose is that it's difficult to get a good look inside the lungs without cutting it open. And to solve this problem and reduce the number of deaths and hospitalizations arising from lung diseases, we need to conduct research aimed at improving lung imaging modalities. So I'm trying to introduce them to the solution to the problem that I explained above. So I said studies have shown that this, using contrast agents such as this, solves the problem. So I said MRI does not employ harmful ionizing radiation, and when this gas is inhaled, it allows us to see people's lung air spaces under MRI, provided that the gas is hyperpolarized prior to inhalation. And I explained that the detection sensitivity is improved by four to five orders of magnitude over gas that is not hyperpolarized. So this is the solution to the problem that I explained above, the problems that I explained above about COPD. So I kind of tried to show a heaven and hell paradigm. I showed this is where I come in. I inserted myself in here. I spoke about my research and how we're trying to develop these gases as contrast agents. Explained that I've built this device using off-the-shelf constituent parts for the purpose of hyperpolarizing this gas for uses as MRI contrast agents. And I said below are quotes from experts. So this is a quote from one of my recommendation letters. It says Toby built this, which is capable of hyperpolarizing this gas, and it can be inhaled by subjects for clinical imaging. This project has enjoyed funding, which enabled us to purchase constituent components of the device, such as electromagnets, power supply units, high power laser, the in situ spectrometer, the optics, the gas handling manifold, etc., as well as to fund Toby's travels to and from Detroit. So I said, see Exhibit 3. And then I brought another quote from a different letter, Exhibit 4. It says, Mr. Gaffar's contribution to this field is in the area of developing enabling technologies for production of hyperpolarized contrast agents. Mr. Gaffar has built this, which is capable of producing hyperpolarized this for clinical studies in the future. So this is just to show I made the claim here, and I'm using this quote to substantiate the claim. Now, I said here that I relied heavily on Exhibits 3 and 4 throughout my petition. So if you look at my petition letter, you'd notice that I quoted heavily from exhibits 3 and 4. Those two recommenders, they are my teachers who understand the research that we're doing inside and out. They know it like the back of their hands. So I said below are pictures. You can actually put pictures of the device that I built, taken at different angles. I redacted it, of course. And then I summarized. I said my specific endeavor impacts a matter that Congress has described as having national importance, so much so that it directs a White House office to establish a committee to oversee it. And I said my proposed endeavor will have national and global implications as it will help to reduce the number of hospitalizations and deaths associated with these groups of diseases. So you can show that I'm showing here that it's that my research is going to have potential positive impacts on a national and global scale. And here I said I intend to continue my research. And among other things, I've done this. I'm in the process of doing this. And thereafter, I will do this. And that's the end of my prong one. So a quick recap again. I only picked 2 bullet points that I felt I had. So it impacts a matter that a government agency describes as important. And then it has national or global implications, just 2. Now, mind you, there are more than 2 bullet points. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. But I only have 2. So I used the 2 that I had.